Hello everyone, I Assistant Professor Pragati Shetty from Department of Microbiology, KJ Somaya College. In this lecture, we will continue the viral study. Okay, in the last online lecture, we have studied till the hepatitis viruses. We have completed the hepatitis A and the hepatitis B. In this online lecture, we will study about the poliovirus. Okay, so let's start. First, we will study the structure of the virus and the genomic properties of that virus. Now, the poliovirus that is coming under the family called as the picornaviridae. Okay, this is the important family of the virus, and the poliovirus will come into this category. Okay, the picornaviridae. All right. And that will come under the serotype. This picornaviridae is the serotype of the enterovirus. Okay. Now this virus is spherical virion and it is having the icosahedral symmetry, means the 6 sides. Okay, that we used to call the icosahedral, right? You can see in this structure there are the 6 sides in that structure of the virus, and therefore it is calling as the icosahedral symmetry. Okay, then the size of the virus is 27 nanometer in the diameter of the virus having the 27 nanometer in the size. Then it is composed of the 60 subunits. Okay, it is composed of the 60 subunits, and each subunit of this virus will contain the 4 viral proteins. Okay, the virus is containing the 60 subunits, and each subunit will have 4 viral proteins which are arranged in the icosahedral symmetry. Okay, you can see in that structure they have shown the red circles. These are that subunits. Okay, all right, which we call the capsid, the nucleocapsid. Okay, in that capsid the red color dots are the 60, that is the 60 subunits, and in the each subunit we have the 4 viral proteins, and which are those protein V1 to V4, VP1 and the VP2, VP3 and the VP4, viral protein 1 to the viral protein 4. Okay, now these proteins are facing outwards, right? As you can see in the picture, these are the facing outwards, not inwards. These are present outside the structure of the virus, right? And therefore it is the major antigenic site for the infection or for the transferring the genome into the host. Okay, and it is also site for the combination with the type specific neutralizing antibodies. This part we will again study in later. Okay, but just remember that this site is also very major antigenic site for combination with the type specific neutralizing antibodies. All right, now the genome is composed of single-stranded positive sense RNA. Okay, you can see there is a single-stranded RNA and which is positively positively sense. Right. Then virus can be crystallized, and the arrays of virus crystals can be seen in the cytoplasm of the infected cell. See, the crystallized, which means it can create the mesh like structure, the arrays of the virus crystals. Okay, if we draw this icosahedral molecules just sticking to each other, then that structure will be formed that is called as the arrays of this virus crystals. Okay, this virus can be crystallized and can be present or can be seen in the cytoplasm of the infected cells. Okay, now this virus is resistant to the lipid solvent like ether, chloroform and the bile salt. The resistance we will see again later in the after slides. Alright, so this is the structure of the virus. Okay, you can see in the picture the size they have mentioned 27 nanometer. The genome is single stranded positively sense RNAs with 7478 base pairs. Okay, then the capsid, each subunit will contain, there are total 60, right? From that 60, each of them will have the 4 viral proteins, right? VP1, VP2, VP3 and the VP4. Okay, and in the RNA it is also having the VPG, the enzyme that is responsible for the transcription. Okay, this is the structure of this poliovirus. Now we will see the resistant properties of this viruses, to which things, to which chemicals this virus is resistant and to which certain things this virus is susceptible. Now first, it is resistant to the lipid solvent such as the ether, such as chloroform, bile, proteolytic enzyme of the intestinal contents and the detergent. Okay, see this bile and the proteolytic enzyme that are already present in our intestine. Okay, and this virus is resistant to this also, including the ether, chloroform and some other detergents. Okay, then the virus is stable at the acidic pH, that is the pH 3. Then in feces it can survive for 4 months at 4 degrees Celsius for years at the minus 20 degrees Celsius. This means the virus can remain active in the feces for 4 months, okay, at the 4 degrees Celsius. And if we have to preserve, then we can preserve that at minus 20 degrees Celsius, and that can be for years. Okay, now the room temperature survival of the virus in the feces vary. Okay, that is our normal temperature, the room temperature. At that temperature the viral survival will depend and will vary, okay, from days to weeks, and it will depend upon, right, the humidity conditions, the temperature, the atmospheric conditions, the moisture, the pH and the amount of the virus that is already present. Okay, if very less amount, if very less particles of the virus are present, then there is not many more chances for remain viable for that viruses, and if the virus are present in higher amount, then there may be chance for their greater survival range, right? Then it is readily inactivated. Now the susceptibilities. Okay, now the virus is susceptible to heat at the 55 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes. Right, then it is also susceptible to the molar MgCl2, magnesium chloride, milk or the ice cream that protects the virus against the heat activation, right? As we have saw in the previous point that it is susceptible to heat. Okay, now for protection from the heat, who can protect the virus from heating? The MgCl2, milk or the ice cream. Why ice cream? Low temperature, and at the low temperature virus can remain active, right? Just now we discussed at the 4 degrees Celsius it can remain active, viable, and therefore in the ice cream, the milk, MgCl2 protects the virus against the heat inactivation. Okay, then formaldehyde and the oxidizing disinfectants again destroys the virus, which means virus are susceptible to this formaldehyde and the oxidizing disinfectant. Then Again, chlorination can also destroy the virus. Then organic matter present in the field can delays the inactivation of the virus. Then phenolic disinfectants are not that much effective on this virus activity. Then the virus does not survive in the lyophilization well. Okay. Lyophilization, it is a process again at the preserving of the organisms at the low temperature. All right. But in this case, in this virus, it is not remain that much survive, or it is not that much remains viable at the lyophilization process. Okay. This is the resistance property and the susceptible properties for the viruses. All right. Now we will see the. All right. Now these are the antigenic properties. Okay. Now the antigenic properties, in this we have two tests. Okay. First is the neutralization test, and the second is the complement fixation test and the ELISA or the precipitation test. Okay, we will see the one by one. The first is what? The neutralization test. Okay, now in this, with the help of the neutralization test, the poliovirus strains have been classified into the three types. Okay, depending on this neutralization test, poliovirus strains have been classified into three types: type 1, type 2 and the type 3. Okay, the prototype strains are Brunhild and the Mahoney strains for the type 1. Okay, which means which strains are for the type 1, type 2 and the type 3. Okay, the Brunhild and the Mahoney strains for the type 1, then the Lansing and the MEFI for the type 2, and the Lyon and Socket strains for the type 3. Now among these three, the type 1 is the most common strain and causes the most epidemics, and type 2 usually causes the endemic disease. Okay, and the type 3 strains have caused the epidemics. Okay, and the immunity against this types is the type specific, which means the immunity is different for the each type. All right, now the type 1 is most common, and that is causes the epidemic. Now I have mentioned, we have discussed in the earlier lecture, what is the epidemic. Epidemic is a disease which has been caused or which has been observed in a very large population. Okay, or in a various countries, various parts of the world. That is the epidemic disease. And which is the endemic disease? Endemic is smaller than epidemic, the disease which is present in a particular area or in the particular population, in the certain community, in the group of the people, that is called as the endemic. So the first one, if we go from by order from smaller to greater, the larger one, then the order will be, the first will become endemic, then there will be the epidemic, and then the pandemic. Pandemic means the whole world will get infected by that disease or with that virus or the pathogen. Okay, then type 2 cause usually endemic diseases, and type 3 also cause the epidemic diseases. Okay, then this classification is based on what? Based on neutralization test. Okay, now as I mentioned earlier, the VP1, which is the viral protein present in the subunit of the viral structure in the capsid that carries the major antigenic site, right? Major antigenic site for combination with the type specific neutralizing antibodies. And that's why, since it carries the site for the antibodies, neutralizing antibodies, right? And therefore we are able to do the neutralization test. And by the test, with the result of the testing, we are dividing the virus into the three types. Okay, type 1, type 2 and the type 3. Now the type 1 will have strains naming as Brunhild and the Mahoney strains. Type 2 will have the Lansing and MEFI strains, and the type 3 will have the Leon and Socket strains. Okay, now we will see the next one, that is based on the complement fixation test. Okay, that is the CFT or the ELISA test or the precipitation test. Alright, now the two antigens are recognized, which are called as the antigen C and the antigen D. Antigen C means coreless antigen and the capsid, right? C for capsid, okay, and the D will be the dense. Okay, these two antigen, with the help of the complement fixation or the ELISA or the precipitation test, which two antigens we are able to determine, antigen C and the antigen D, we are able to determine using this test. Okay, and in that, the D antigen, which is also called the native antigen or the N antigen. Native means what? Original. Okay, D antigen is associated with the whole structure of the virion. Okay, and this antigen is the type specific antigen. Okay, in the previous slide we have saw the three types, and this antigen is the type specific. Okay, then the C antigen, which can also called the heated or the H antigen, that is the capsid, right? Core antigen, coreless antigen, and this is associated with the MT non-infectious virus. Okay, so we can say that the D antigen will be having the genome of the virus, whereas the C antigen will not have the genome, it is only having the outer structure, or we can call it as the MT virus, non-infectious virus. Okay, which is less specific and reacts with the heterotypic serum, which many types of the sera it can react with. Okay, with the different types of the antibody it can give the reaction. Then the D antigen is converted into the C antigen by heating the virus at the 56 degree Celsius. See, in the resistance, what we have saw that it is getting inactivated at the 55 degrees Celsius, right? That is why if we hit the virus, what will be resulting with us? The inactivated virus, and that we called that is the non-infectious virus. So that is the C type, right? Then the anti-D antibody, which is the antibodies against the D antigen, right, is protective, and therefore the potency of the injectable polio vaccine can be measured in terms of the D antigen unit. So this is a very interesting and important point. The antibodies against the D antigens are protective antibodies, and therefore the potency of that polio vaccine, okay, potency of the polio vaccine can be measured in the terms of the D antigen unit. Okay, which means while making or while studying the vaccine, we can study the amount of the or the presence of the D antigen, so that the antibodies, the anti-D will be present, right? And accordingly the vaccine can be injected. The potency of that vaccine can be determined by this anti-D antibodies. Okay, what is potency? Potency is the ability to effective. Okay, ability to show its effect. All right, we used to say, right, this antibiotic is that much potent, this drug is that much potent. The concentration, okay, the concentration, the ability that is required to show the required results, it is called as the potency. And therefore with the help of this anti-D antibodies, what we can do, we can measure the potency of this vaccine. Okay, that how much concentration of the antibodies we require in our body, that we can determine with the help of this antibodies, anti-D antibodies. Okay, then the anti-C antibodies. Now these antibodies will be specific for the C antigen, right? Anti-C antibody does not neutralize the virus infectivity. Okay, it does not neutralize the virus infectivity, whereas the anti-D will neutralize the virus infectivity, and therefore it is protective antibody, right? This is the antigenic properties of the polio virus. First, with the help of the neutralization test, the 3 types. Okay, and the second is the complement fixation test or the ELISA test, and also the precipitation test. And with that we can determine the 2 antigen C and the antigen D. Okay, now we will see the host range of the polio virus and the cultivation of this virus, by which way we can cultivate this virus. Okay, then first we will study the host range. All right, then the natural infection occurs only in the human. The natural host for this infection is the humans. Okay, and in vitro, the experimentally the transmission can be in the monkeys. Okay, that may be infected by the intracerebral or the intraspinal inoculation, right? See, what is the polio disease? Poliomyelitis, right? We call it as the poliomyelitis. Myelitis means the inflammation of the spine. Okay, so basically the infection is with the cerebral sites and with the spines. Okay, the polio virus cause the paralysis in the person. All right, therefore while we inject the virus in vitro in the monkeys, which site we are using? Intracerebral and the intraspinal inoculation. Okay, then chimpanzees and the cytomolgus monkeys can be infected orally. Then some established strains have been also adapted. Okay, established strains have also been taken for growth in the rodents and the chick embryos for the cultivation. Okay, for the virus cultivation, the chick embryos can be used or the rodents can be used. Again, the virus can grow readily in the tissue culture on the primate origin. Okay, then primary monkey kidney cultures are used for the diagnostic purpose and for vaccination. In the previous virus study, in the hepatitis virus also, there is the monkey kidney culture has been used for the viral cultivation, right? Then yes, then this is the host range and the cultivation of the virus. Now you look at the second picture. Okay, primary monkey kidney cultures are used, right? And then the infected cells will round up and become refractile and the pycnonic cells. We are isolated the cultures, right? Now we have inoculated the cultures in the tissue culture. Now the infected cells will grow, will round up and become the refractile and the pycnonic cells. Then the eosinophilic intranuclear inclusion bodies may be demonstrated in the stained preparations of that culture. Okay. Then the well-formed plaques develop in infected monolayers with the agar overlay. Right, we know if we want to study the virus in laboratories, then the plaque assay is the method we use to study. Right, to study the virus presence, to check the growth of the virus. Then virus will produce the plaques, the transparent colonies, the transparent zones. All right, with the agar overlay, we do this method with the help of the overlay of the agar, right? Then in this virus also the well formed plaques can be developed in the infected monolayers with the agar overlay, right? Then this is the host range and the cultivation of the polio virus. Okay, what is important in this, which tissue cultures we can use for the cultivation, and what is the host range, that means which are the host, who are the host for this virus. Normal human is the natural host, right? Then the host can be in vitro, the host can be monkeys, right? And the chimpanzees plus the cynomolgus monkeys. Okay, now we will see the pathogenesis of the polio virus. Now what will come into the pathogenesis? As we discussed in the earlier lectures, the way of the infection, the route of the infectivity of the virus, that how will virus reach to that site of the infection and will cause the replication there, right, will increase its community there, that will become under the pathogenesis of the polio virus. Okay, now first we have the two parts, the primary viremia, the secondary viremia. Viremia means what? The presence of virus in the blood. It is called as the viremia. Okay, now first the virus is enter into the body, right, will enter into the body by mouth, the oral route. Okay, then there will be the local multiplication of the virus. Now what will happen, the antigens that are present on the virus, on the structure of the virus, that is the 4 viral proteins are present. All right, that protein will help the virus to attach to that site of the infection and then multiply there. Okay, there the viral genome will multiply. Okay, local multiplication. Then due to the multiplication in the body, in the blood, what will happen, the primary viremia will be developed. What is viremia? The presence of viral infection in the blood, and therefore the primary viremia will be seen or will be occurred there. Then the secondary viremia, okay, that is first viremia will be minor. The secondary viremia, which means the enters the blood stream again. Okay, first they will multiply, that is the local multiplication, and due to the local multiplication the primary viremia. The secondary viremia will be when they enters the bloodstream again. After the multiplication again they will enter, right, and there it will cause this secondary viremia, which is the major type. Then it will spread it to the spinal cord and the brain. Okay, then it will multiplies in the neurons, in the cerebral activities it will multiplies in the neuron, and then the lesions are mostly in the anterior horns of the spinal cord, causing the flaccid paralysis, and which is very very distinct characteristic of the polio disease, the polio infection. Okay, now what is happening after the primary viremia? Again virus will enter into the bloodstream again, then it will reach to the spinal cord. In the secondary viremia it is reaching to the spinal cord and the brain cells, okay, in the neuronal cells. There it will multiply, and once it will multiply in the neuron it will produce the lesions where in the anterior horns, anterior outside, okay, of the spinal cord, causing the flaccid paralysis, and due to which the paralysis attack can be seen. Okay, which ultimately destroys the person. Okay, due to polio infection the people cannot walk. Okay, their hand movements, their body posture, okay, their body weight, everything will get affected due to this viral infection, and that is why it is very much infective, very much harmful virus. Therefore it is mandatory that we have to take the polio vaccines, right, at the early age. Okay, so this is the pathogenesis of this polio virus in these two stages, secondary, primary and the secondary viremias. All right, yes. Now we will see the pathogenicity. Okay, what is the pathogenicity, how pathogenic is the viruses? Okay, then virus transmitted by the fecal oral route through the ingestion. Okay, we have studied in the resistant that it can be stayed in the feces, right? This is the fecal oral route through the virus can transmit. Then other possible modes can be the close contacts in the polio patients, then inhalation or the entry through the conjunctiva or the droplets of the respiratory secretions. All right, these are the routes. Then virus multiply, so these are the site of the transmission or the routes of the transmission. Then virus multiply initially in the epithelial cells of the alimentary canal and in the lymphatic tissues from the tonsils to the Peyer's patches. All right, now what is the way, what is the route of this virus? The virus will multiply initially. Once the virus will enter into the body, it will reach to the epithelial cells, okay, in the alimentary canal, and there it will multiply, the local multiplication, right, we saw in the previous. There it will cause the local multiplication, and then in the lymphatic tissues from the tonsils to the Peyer's patches in the body, and then it will spread to the regional lymph node and enters into the bloodstream, which will therefore resulting into the primary viremia. Okay, you can refer the previous slide also again, okay, for the outline of this process. Right, then virus will spread to the lymph node and the bloodstream, and as it will enter into the bloodstream it will cause primary minor viremia. Okay, then further multiplication takes place in the reticuloendothelial system. All right, then again virus will multiply there in the reticulum endothelial system. Okay, first was epithelial cells, Second was endothelial systems. Right, then virus will enter again into the blood cells, that is causing the secondary major viremia. Okay, first is the primary, now second is the secondary viremia. Now virus is carried to our brain, to the brain and the spinal cord. Okay, in the brain, in the CNS, virus multiply in the neurons and destroys them. Right, then the earliest changes, the degeneration of the cells or the bodies, we call as the chromatolysis, lysis of these bodies. Okay, then the nuclear changes follows again, and then when the degeneration becomes irreversible, the necrotic cell lyses and it is phagocytes by leukocytes or the macrophages. Okay, then the lesions are mostly in the anterior horns of the spinal cord. Okay, which causes the paralysis, the flaccid paralysis we saw in the previous slide, which causes the flaccid paralysis. See, these lesions are producing. Why? Because there is a degeneration of this. Degeneration becomes irreversible, and therefore the necrotic cell lyses, or the necrotic cell will phagocytosed by the leukocytes or the macrophages. Okay, therefore the lesions are produced in the anterior horns of the spinal cord, which causes the flaccid paralysis. Okay, and the posterior horns and intermediate columns can also be involved in some portion. The basically major is the anterior horns are involved of the spinal cords. Okay, then the pathological changes will happen. Okay, for the paralysis, then the paralysis will increase, and in the some cases the encephalitis can also occur. Okay, and the cerebral diseases. Right, anyway, it is the virus is incorporating into the CNS. Right, this is the pathogenicity of the virus. Okay, I hope you understood this online lecture. In this lecture, we saw the structure of the virus, the genome properties of the virus, resistant properties of this virus, susceptibility properties. Then we saw the antigenic properties. Right, in the antigenic, we saw the neutralization test plus the complement fixation test. In the neutralization, 3 type. In the complement fixation, we can identify 2 antigen C and the antigen D. Right, then after that we saw host range and the cultivation of the virus, who are the host for this virus and how we can cultivate this virus in vitro. Right, then we saw pathogenicity, then we saw the pathogenesis. Right, I hope you understood this online lecture of the polio virus. If you have any doubt regarding this, please ask in the comment section. Thank you for watching.